Hi there, I'm Frances and welcome to Love Teaching at Home. This is a session all about involving your children in the planning process so that they can have ownership of what they're learning. Now this is a really important skill to learn, and it is a skill, and I'll explain why in a few minutes. It's a really important skill to learn because there are lots of benefits to children being involved in planning their own education. The first benefit is that it brings about independent learning because they're driving their own learning, they're deciding what they want to do, and this is the key point to independent learning, is that it's driven by the child, and this puts them way ahead of their peers when it comes to confidence, self-confidence, and independence in many different areas, as well as maturity as a person, because to know what you want to study and to have the confidence to ask for that involves quite a lot of maturity. Now that said, and we'll look into it, there's different ways to do it because younger children will struggle if you set them a task. Well, all children will struggle if you set them a task that's too far beyond their years for maturity, but younger children, obviously it's going to be more of an issue because they won't be at that level quite yet. So I'll look at different ways to set them. It's also really good because it's actually shared family time. You and your child are working towards a shared goal. You're saying, right, here's our problem, is that we've got a 2-month period that we want to fill with topics, maybe just a 1-month period, however long you want to do. We've got a 2-month period we want to fill with topics. What shall we do? And so sitting down and planning together and working out your plan together is actually really good quality family time. It's working towards a common goal, which that shared experience builds your bond, and it puts your relationship dynamic in a slightly different position, which is very good for everybody. It doesn't have to stay that way for the entire time, but if normally you're sort of giving out worksheets and they're just sort of doing them, they're coming in very passive towards their learning, and sort of you've got all the control in the learning and they're coming in and doing some work, by changing that dynamic, you're giving everybody a fresh pair of eyes into learning, which means that the learning that you do from then on, however you plan it, is going to be better because you've seen it from another perspective. It's also really good for re-engaging disengaged children. So if you've got generally a teenager, could be anybody, but if you've got a child at home who is not interested in learning, say you've had 2 or 3 excellent years of home education, and it's been a lot of home learning, a lot of textbooks and printed off worksheets, a lot of visits to museums, and you've had a wonderful time. Eventually that child grows up and what they need changes, and often they signify that with a disengagement because they're just saying, do you know what, I don't want this anymore. And so by changing that power balance I was talking about before and just readjusting it a little bit and doing that work together, re-engages that child because they know that you're listening to them, they know that their opinion is valued, and they know that what they're going to be doing is directly relevant to them and that they've asked for it. So they are already vested in the process. It also adds an element of interest and surprise. This is one of my favourite reasons for you as the parent, because when you plan lessons, and as a teacher I knew, because I planned lessons for 10 years and I knew I had a really good idea in my head as to what the kids should be doing every inch of the way. I planned the lessons really finely, and actually the more enjoyable ones were the ones where I gave the students a lot more freedom. So when we did longer projects, I said, right, these are the points you need to cover, this is how you're going to present it to me, these are all the resources you've got, just go for it. And we would get all sorts of things coming in. So some really interesting results, lots of classroom picnics and music and all sorts that you wouldn't expect from an RE lesson. So some really interesting work going on. So it makes it much more fun for you if you don't actually know fully what's going to be coming when you have to sit down and have the discussion. And it might broaden your horizons. You know, we all have, and I have for myself, very clear ideas as to what learning looks like and what you kind of should be learning. And for the kids to be saying, well, actually, I'd rather be learning such and such, I'd rather be learning stuff about the garden, I'd rather be learning things about music that you may not have considered them to be interested in, and that will help you explore that topic as well. So those are all the benefits. As you can see, planning with your children is really vital, very important, and super for everybody if you get it right. Now, how to do it? You matter the most. You are the person who is going to be guiding this, okay? So you need to get your headspace right because it's a difficult skill to do. So I've got a few tips. First of all, you need to get yourself ready because they could be saying anything, okay? They could say literally anything. Now, you need to know what is within your reach. You need to know what you're willing to compromise on, and you also need to know what you're not going to compromise on. Okay, so the three things you need to know going into this discussion specifically are what were you capable of. So, for example, what your budget might be, what your time limit might be. You know, if, for example, they want to go and live with tribal people in the Amazon, that's probably not going to be possible. It's not really probably within your reach. But if they say they want to try out getting some work experience, that probably is within your reach, but you may not even have considered it. You might be happy to compromise on how it's presented, how they share their learning. So you might want to compromise that they want to share something digitally, or they want to make something, or they want, like I said, do some work experience, or lots of different options. So you could be willing to compromise on that. You could be willing to compromise on what the topics are. So you might not have a lot of subject knowledge yourself in one specific area, but you might be willing to compromise. So you have in mind that you want them to study something sciencey, and they decide not. Okay. Now, you might be something you're not wanting to compromise on. For example, they might say, I want to learn to be a chef. Fab. Not in my kitchen. So that could be where you draw the line. So there might be something that it'll push you too far. So you need to know what that line is. Okay. Now, I don't know, as far as kitchens go, if my kid was like, I really want to learn to cook, I'd find a way to do it in quite a controlled way. I wouldn't just be like, yeah, go for it. See, but then she's very little. So, we'd have to work something out. But yeah, so work out what you're happy to compromise on and what you're not happy to compromise on. When you've got your headspace ready, that's the time to have the conversation. Now, this conversation is going to go in two different ways, depending on whether your child is little or big. Okay, so for the little ones, and for this I'm thinking definitely under 10, a mature 11, 12-year-old could handle the older conversation. Sort of 10, 11, 12, maybe up to 13 be sort of the age range for sort of averagely mature kids to be using this approach with. So for younger children, you need to explain the purpose of the activity, which is that you're planning. And the purpose of the activity is to help them learn something that they like. So once they get the idea that it's their choice and that's what matters, you'll get some interesting ideas. Make sure that they know you're not looking for the right answer. I really want to study maths. They might do. They really might do. But especially girls who are quite eager to please will say they want to do one thing specifically, and actually there's something else they might be interested in. So for the younger children, you might want to chuck in a few ideas to see which ones they take to as well. Ask them to choose a topic that they're interested in, or something that is they want to learn. They might want to learn a skill. They might want to learn about cooking or gardening. Especially for the younger ones, it might be a homey idea that they've not had access to yet because they've been too young. Fingers crossed they ask to learn about tidying their bedroom. We'll see. And then you plan the activities. So once they tell you what it is they want to study, you plan the activities around it. So they've already getting the idea of a bit of control. When you've done the first set of learning, you've done your first topic, your first project, and you've got some results that you're really keen on, you want to try it again, you can always try to build on that success and say, the next time round, what did you learn from the last that you want to extend on? So it might have been that they learnt about gardening in the last project, and you did a whole lot of stuff over spring and they grew some wonderful plants. And it might be that you grew vegetables and now they want to learn cooking, and it might be that they're really interested now in the weather. So from that one topic, find out how you can expand it into a second topic to make it more interesting for the next time that they plan. So for the younger students, it's younger children, I'm a teacher, always talking about students, but for the younger children, it's always about them choosing the topics, but you still need to choose the activities in general. They might say there's something they want to try, but you need to choose activities in general because they don't have a clear enough idea about what is physically possible, what is physically realistic, and what leads to good learning. Okay, so with older children, you need to explain the point of the activity, and the purpose of the activity in this case is to give them the opportunity to explore something that they're interested in. So it's not about them just choosing a topic they want to do and you going working off and doing it. It's about them leading their own exploration. So ask them to choose a topic or a skill that they're interested in. So again, it could be they might be interested in physics. It could be a subject, like a traditional school subject. It could be that they want to learn more about computers, something that they're really keen on doing. If they're up in their bedroom, computer gaming 12 hours a day, try and grasp hold of that and say, right, let's have a go. Let's make a computer. there's something you can have a go at. Give them some ideas of what you'd be willing to do, because you're looking at something that is maybe completely new to you as a family. You need to give them the ideas that you want to include. So, for example, say if they're pushing themselves and they hadn't really thought that it was a possibility, you need to say, you know, it is a possibility. You could do this, you could do this, you could do this. So they get the idea of what is possible. Otherwise, they will just stick with the smaller area that they're already familiar with. Then next, together, brainstorm questions that they want to answer, or maybe achievements that they want. So it might be that they say, do you know what, I can't swim. I'm 16 years old and I can't swim. I'm 15 years old and I can't swim. I want to learn to swim. And so you can do a whole project around swimming, but that they have swimming lessons, they learn how to swim, could be one of the key points. Or it could be that they're really interested, how long would it take us? Could we launch a rocket to go to the moon from our back garden? That is a huge amount of project work. You've got physics, you've got spacey physics, you've got computer, when they launched the people onto the moon in the 60s, they didn't have much computing actually going on. They had a room full of computers, but the computers weren't really doing much. There's more technical knowledge in a digital watch, and that was in the 90s. These days there's a lot more on your phone. So from your phone, you've almost have enough technology to launch a rocket if you wanted to. There's something to think about. So finding out how to do that. So one question, could I launch a rocket to the moon from my garden? Let's have a go and let's find out. Depending on their ability, so here's the difference between a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old, basically. Get them to map out the questions that they want to ask and how they're going to get there. So they might say, well, let's stick with this rocket idea because it's a really good one. I might get and do it now. So let's stick with this rocket idea and say, can we get a rocket to the moon? Okay, so we need to know how rockets work. So how do rockets work? And within that, there's going to be a whole load of other questions. We're going to need to know how far is it to the moon? Can we get there? We're going to need to know how much would it cost to launch a rocket. So you've got all things like rocket fuel, materials, what does it have to be made out of, like how many people do you need to launch a rocket, things like that. You've also got questions about, on the other side of it, like social questions, like can you launch a rocket from your garden? If you're not allowed to do fireworks, can you really do a rocket? So there's lots of questions like that you can answer. So they can break it down into lots of different questions. And each of those bigger questions, well, middle-sized questions, will then have lots of little questions coming down from it. So this is the part which can get tricky for a younger student, because I'll get really down into the nitty-gritty, whereas an older student, we can say, right, I want you to answer 5 questions out of this, and then from those 5 questions, we'll sort of plan it. So you'll spend a day looking at this one, and then we'll see where we go from there. But they have to plan it out themselves. I personally, with an older child as well, might give them control of the budget. I wouldn't give them like 100 quid in cash, but I'd say to them, this learning is going to cover you for like the next 1 or 2 months. And normally on resources, I would spend on you £100 or £200 or whatever it is, and that would normally cover your textbooks, that would normally cover trips places, that would normally cover any tutorials you would have in it, whatever it is you spend. Now, obviously, you're going to be the keeper of the money, but you can say to them, I'm going to give you control of 50 quid, 100 quid, £200 for this topic. So they can then go online and order what they need to order, or they can work out going on a trip somewhere, or they can work out what's going to cost them for swimming lessons. Once they've got the control of their budget, then they know what they can do with it. Okay, so that's the sum up. Now, one more warning, just want to put in, some children can be overwhelmed by choice, especially if you've got, say, what can be often common is a girl who's sort of 9, 10, 11, and sort of 9 to 13, and she's left school because of anxiety. She's very eager to please, and she hasn't got an idea of herself yet. Now, this can be for girls and boys, but the common structure is for girls. This can be a bit difficult, because you're the teacher. You should be telling them what to learn, in her eyes, because that's what she's been told by school. You're the teacher. You should be telling her what to learn, and she wants to be given work so she knows she's doing well. If you're not setting her targets to meet, how does she know she's doing well enough? How does she know she's reaching your expectations? We're going to look at different ways to explore that in a different video, but for the moment there's one to watch out for, so make sure that comes through how you explain the activity to them and how you do rewards within home outside of the work. Super, so just to recap, getting your kids involved in planning, it's super good fun, it's really good for everybody, and it's a lovely surprise for you. You are the key to making it work. your child is not prepared or equipped for doing this because they've never done it before, or they've done it before but not enough. They need you to show them the way. So you need to get your headspace right. You need to know that they could do anything. You need to know what you will compromise on and what you won't compromise on, and what is within your reach. You need to know what your budget is going to be and what your physical, if they need to be taken somewhere every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, can you do that? Maybe, maybe not. Only you know your personal situation. With younger children, they choose the topic. With older children, they plan the whole thing. And that's it. Super. See you next time.